go back to my desktop now. Alright, so here's me, just on my video, and I hope you can see me. Looking really lovely today, but I don't think that matters, to be honest. So let's get right to it. Feel free to send me a chat message or ping me in chat if there's issue, right? Uh, uh, so first thing first, let me first uh, try to introduce myself. If you're basically first time meeting me, right? So my name is Mustansir Zia, right? And I'm a senior software engineer at Hubilo. So Hubilo is basically it's a virtual event platform where we kind of connect people from all over the place. Been really hit during COVID because we're able to actually were actually able to make events possible. We're able to give events a new life by transforming them, and now they're all virtual. So that's what I do, and that's just what I do professionally, right? And to be honest, like, but my day job is to be writing code, and I just write code, and that's what I do. And it doesn't really matter what my professional titles is, or what I'm called, but what matters to me is that I write code, and that is the only thing that matters. Right? And probably if you're joining this, that's what matters to you as well. And you can know more about if you want to write. You are from the Node.js ecosystem, you probably be having your Node.js tools installed, right? So you can actually go in your CLI and you can just type out nginx Mustanse, and you'll get an idea of you get some idea. You'll get some links, and you get some idea about some of my open source projects. Right? And also you can there's also a small blog website that I run. I sometimes write blogs, although I'm very lazy about it. And but I do make sure to write a few here and now, every now and then. So that's my website. So that is my small introduction, right? So we'll get into more details as to what I do. But this what's more important is why we are here, right? And what we're trying to build here, right? So uh, so I really don't know how to start this in a better way, right? I just get right to it. Today what we're doing is we're building an application that will basically. So I'll actually show you the application. I mean, let me actually show you the application if I can, right? So I'm just show you what we're trying to build. I actually have a sample of that run, and we're gonna build it. So this is very small page that we're gonna build in Next.js. Next.js, if you know, is a framework. It's actually a framework in React. Although React, well, you could say something on top of it that allows you to do SSR and SSG very conveniently and easily, right? So build this app Next.js, and this is what the homepage looks like, right? And what we're trying to build here is that we're trying to build a small search engine for universities and colleges in India and all abroad, right? What that means is this just has a text box, and text box you can write anything, right? Maybe something like Kashmir, right? That's where I'm from, right? And it's taking some time because I'm using the resources at backend. So it's just gonna give you some search results for universities in colleges, right? For your keyword, and the way it works is that it matches either the prefix or a part of the string that matches basic. So it does some string tokenization, and it matches. It can match, any of the strings. So that's what it does. But that's not what we're trying to build. We're actually trying to build the front end of this application. So wherein we would have this text box and we would do this API call and fetch data. Very simple project, to be honest. There's nothing really fancy about this whole setup. Maybe you might even done yourself a lot of times. But what's actually more important and what we really want to learn is we want to really learn a couple of things, right? So if we go back to slide, right? So what we intend to do is we intend to build this app, right? Which is fine, right? But at the same time, we also want to run some integration tests that our app is actually working properly, and to make this a bit more complete, we'll also deploy this application to a Ubuntu droplet. By the way, is a DigitalOcean droplet. I was like playing with this some time ago, and we are going to have a sim deployment just like this. So we're going to have an IP address where this will be deployed, and we're going to learn to do that. We're gonna write some shell scripts. I'm going to learn to do that. It's pretty simple. And then the best part about and most interesting part about this session is we're actually going to automate the previous two steps. So we will automate running our integration tests, and we will automate our deployments to go, right? So okay, all right. So bear with me. This is just my first time doing. I'm really nervous, and I really can mess up things, right? So feel free to interact and say anything if you want, right? I'll just probably have to disable my Twitter. Not sure why it's actually just pause my notification, right? But anyway, uh, uh, so let's get to it. So this is what we're trying to do. Okay. So just rounding this up again. So building an app that will allow you to search a keyword and it will search for any colleges and like that. Let's say we are searching for SSM. Not sure why I was searching for SSM regularly, but let's say we are searching for something else. Let's say Delhi, right? It will give me like call in Delhi and things like that, right? Maybe Delhi University would be the other. Okay, Delhi University is not there. Kashmir University would probably be there. No, right? But let's see. Maybe University of Kashmir would match. Yeah. So there you go. So there's your map. And this is good, right? So this is what we're trying to build. And just take a breather here, and I will just let you explore these resources a bit. So here is Next.js, the framework that we will be using, right, to build this. This makes it very easy to build server-side render apps, React apps, right? This is what it does, and it also has some optimizations it does along the way that we may or not see during the course of session, right? Um, Apart from this, we will not use too many fancy tools. We will only be using components pre-built by MintyUI, right? Um, this is basically just a component library, right? Made by Google, and they have really great components that are pretty much ready to use, and we're using these to build whatever we have. Although that's not too much, right? You could guess it from this input, right? So it's like a material input. This is the only thing probably that's coming from the library. That's all. Yes. So yeah, thanks. I just got that notification, right? Uh, so all right, and so let's get to it, right? Let's just get to it. Let's actually take this. Let's actually take this on, right? So the first is to actually build this app, and then we can go to the next steps, which are kind of in the future. I'm actually kind of doubting whether we will be able to actually finish all these in 60 minutes or so. In that case, we'll have to basically stretch out to another session, right? Probably tomorrow at the same time. But let's get started and see where we get to. Okay. So the first thing that we have to do is um, first thing we'll have to run some boilerplate code, right? I mean that's what we do once we have repositories like what we will do is I'll actually open my terminal quickly, and I will also open XJS docs and uh, okay, I just need to quickly see one thing in this switch. Okay, so all right, thanks. Yeah, okay. So all right, let's get started, right? So we'll actually start from Next.js, and uh, this just has us to bootstrap object. So there is a CLI Next.js that allows you to create a sort of boilerplate, and it has all the tooling installed, and you can go work. You can hit the ground, right? Okay. So what we will do is we will actually do this. To do this, we can either use npx or we use yarn. Uh, so I personally prefer yarn. So let's go with yarn. Okay. Uh, so let's actually do that. Uh, okay. So here, and this is where I want my project to be. I'll just do this. And by the way, I do want TypeScript support. So we don't like to go without TypeScript. It's just I feel like it's just going. You're just being blind if you're not using TypeScript. It's just you're trying to build something being blind. It's that simple for me, to be honest. So so I really prefer TypeScript. It really helps me to, let's say, it really gives me that confidence about my code base, right? So I'm not messing any objects or things like that. So we're gonna use TypeScript, and let's just actually start our slide. Okay, name of the project would be we'll just call it institution lookup, right? Right. It's a really I should have come up with a more cheeky name, but this will have to do for now, right? Okay, so this is thing while this is happening, right? It's actually good to while. So what it does is it actually so it sets up that boilerplate. It also download all the required dependencies that you might need to have, and it installs all the node modules and have a ready-made project. So if you go to this, right, if you go to institutions lookup that I just created, you'll actually see that it has all the files that are needed. So we can actually we can open this, right, and see. So this is the set of files that the boilerplate has, like the ready-made boilerplate script has for us. So there is, there's a package.json file with the dependencies, although there are not too many dependencies, and there are a few dev dependencies, and of course there is a paste folder. So in Next.js, if you know, so let's actually just do one thing. Let's actually start this and see how it looks. So we'll do a yarn dev. Let's start the dev, and so basically, it should be coming up anything. There it is. So this is the basically our boilerplate now running locally, right? And as you noticed, as you probably know about Next.js or not, Next.js actually has a, it actually uses a concept of using file system for routing. So to create a certain route, you create a certain file in the pages directory. So for the root directory, the root for the root path, you have to use the X file. Uh, then if I add another page, let's say I create another one called, let's say, um, second.tx. I'll just create this out and I'll quickly just write a component, right, of second, and let it. I'm just gonna let return something sensible. Okay, so go to second. Sorry, that's not the one. That's not the one. Right? It's actually really hard to do because it's friggingly cold and my hands are like all shivering. It's really hard to type, and you have to type a lot, so it makes it even hard, right? So this is the routing works in Next.js. We will not use a second page. So our app just has one page, just one root, and that's it. No pages. So this is where we will write the logic and we will the app sort of, right. And just want to see something if I have any more comments, right? Okay, fine. So fair enough. So this is the app, right? And this is our dev. Okay, and let's start build this now. What I'll do is, as you can see that this has its own, like it has its own, like it has own text and things like that, right? Right, a proper boilerplate. Now what I'll do is I'll take a sort of shortcut here. What I'll do is, rather than creating all the components, and not components I should say, there will not be many components here. I really want to give this full, right? But all the markup, and let's say everything else that I want to add to boilerplate, and there are few things that are missing. So generally when I actually when I talk about boilerplates, right, so there are a few things that I really like to have before I do anything, right, and add those things kind of, so I'll actually make a list here. So um, the things that I really like, so the first thing is, of course, I would definitely want something and formatting to happen, and to happen online, like probably on online, right? So I want some sort of support. Although Next.js does have an ESLet config of its own, the bucket, but I generally like to use my own one, right? And I do my formatting, and I'll just into that in a bit. So I do want my linting and formatting setup. I also want basically I want some things like ideally I would want my UI kit to be there, right? The components that I'm using. So generally I'm not that good CSS. And that's just how it is. But so that's why I kind of lean towards UI kit. Sometimes that's not the ideal solution, but that's just what I have to live with, right? So generally I like to have these things under my belt, and I also want to. I also like to start with a bare bones folder structure. I don't want to go with default folder structure. So I have a sort of folder structure that I keep, and there are a few more others actually that I keep. I don't remember now. There are probably some scripts that I'll also use. Um, so I actually did all of that work. So that's the shortcut that I was talking about. We are going to take, and so I actually made another repository, right, which actually has all markup. So it doesn't have any logic, right? It has only the markup, right? So it just saves a hell of time for us. and we don't have to do this manually hand, right? So all the tiles and everything, right? So this is just, I mean, this is not, there isn't too much to learn here. So because I didn't really make, I didn't really make reusable components or things like that. I want to keep this simple. So as such, there's not much to learn here, except for, just writing markup. So we're just gonna copy paste certain thing from here, and then we'll just take it forward. Okay. So let's first, what I'll do is I'll just go to my package.json here. Uh, yeah, sorry. So another thing that I actually forgot to mention here, I just remembered by looking at the boilerplate, the environment set. So I do like to have an environment setup before I start thing, right? So by environments, I mean I would want a system in the app wherein I could actually configure the app to run in different environments. So for example, locally it would have a different environment, and by deploy it would have a different environment, right? And by environment, I simply mean a different set of environment variables that would be there when the app is built or when the app is served. So I would want some sort of setup before that. To do this, you might have created EV files, right? Or TNV files you might have, right? So that's what we're also going to create in a different directory. So that's so what I like to have, and that's really it, right? So I'll start by copying the packages file. So like I said, I actually might have had added material like it, right? And it uses right now I'm using Emotion as the styling library. Emotion, as you know, is a JS library, right? Like style component. Although there is a way to run my UI using style component, but we'll just go with Emotion. We don't have to do much here. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this, and I'll then explain to you the things that are here, right? Okay. So let's just paste it here. The first thing I'll do is I'll install these dependencies, right? And now I want to explain to you like a couple of concepts that I have here in the boilerplate. As you see, there are like I changed the default scripts a bit, not too much, but I did change them a bit, right? So the first thing is I changed the build command and see, and I also changed the dev and the start commands. Basically, this is what I mean. I say environment setup. So basically, let me actually just copy a few things, and then we'll get to see get to see what these mean. What the environment fixes. What these commands actually mean. Then so let me do now. After this, I would like to copy my formatting and linting configurations, right? And just copy them here. Uh, let's use JS files for now, and let's have a concept of using JS files. We use another JSON files also, doesn't really matter. But for now, for this decision, we'll be using JS files. So now as you can see, now since my style rules are in, my lint rules are in, and obviously you see we have a lot of lint errors, right? The formatting off, and there could be some other things that are also off. And I do have my own configuration, so it uses so basically we're using a modified form of the prettier and the React ESLint con, right? And we're also, this is a prettier config. This is use formatting, right? So by default ESLint doesn't format. That's prettier formats for us, but we use it in such a way that we're able to actually use it through a plugin for ESLint, right? So we're actually using prettier through ESLint, and we have disabled by default if you use the prettier config to in ESLint. So that actually removes all the formatting rules from ESLint. Then it just is its own prettier use its own formatting rules. So that is what happens. So this is what's happening, right? So now you can see that there are so many. Now the other thing that I want to have is I really don't want to do this by hand, right? I don't want to fix these by hand, and you shouldn't really waste your time doing this. Just a few tile exercises that nobody should write. So to do that, what I'll do is I have one of. So I'll just create a file, right, for my VS Code to handle this condition where it, like on each save, it will automatically happen, right? At least the formatting. So what I'll do is I'll just make a directory, right? VS Code, and just touch a file and just make a file here. Okay, so this is the file. The contents of this file look like this. Not too much fancy, but this just tells VS Code to use our ESLint to auto save, to auto format upon each save. As you might have guessed, look at these statements. So if I go here and now if I save and BSC, now it's perfectly formatted, right? I use indentation over, right? And now it's formatted, right? And there is just one that you need to have in your VS Code, right? This could differ from ID to ID, right? Because this is for just so we could. You don't need to have event installed, right? And you do need to have installed ESLint and pretty. You need to install these two extensions. So one is ESLint and the other is pretty. So these things will be used. These are basically are being used under the hood. So this is what my boilerplate looks like, and there are some other things also that I still have to add. I'll This is just right now. All this might seem a bit useless, but you might. But the import for these will probably come up later. So I have an env folder that I also want to copy. This is where my environment setup comes from. So this is my env folder, and as you can see, there are few files. There are three files at the moment. One is the production file, and env production, and then there is an example, and then there's a local. As you might have guessed, env local file is the one that runs when I do this locally. And a production, I might want to have a different file, which might have some different values. Although right now the value is probably the same, right? It's just this one. So I'll explain you like why do we want to have environment setup. Reason is that locally I'm testing, I'm making the right. I could be use a locally running API. I'll be running, or I could be using one of my APIs that are locally running a laptop, right? There could be an environment, it could be a testing environment whereas I would only need to let's say talk to an API that is also in a test environment, so I don't need to hit the production environment, right? So let's say my app is create user, so I don't really want to test and create users on my production database. I want to do that on my, let's say, my testing database or things like that. For that, you need to have certain different set of variables for each environment. So what I mean to say is, when the app will go live to production, then the API URL that we use would be this, right? And when let's say you are doing it locally, it would be probably local host, right? So this is what I mean when I say upper environment setup. All this is quite basic. Like a lot of you might be familiar with this, right? But this is good to have right to start, right? So and of course, we can have as many env files as we want to have, maybe as many as environments we would have. Ideally, for us below, we have around 4 environments. That would be production, release, QA, and dev. So then for developers, there's for the QA team, and there is also one called release, wherein we do sanity check before going to production. And then there's also production, right? So each environments would have its own API, right? So these are actually test there only, and how we're able to segregate changes in respect to databases. So environments are related to each other, right? So some that this is actually a good idea to do in all the apps, even if you have mobile applications or any websites for that matter. So the good idea to do that in any of the platforms, irrespective of what app is doing or what the platform is. So this is what we have, and so if I go back to my JSON, this is wherein I load the file, right? So it's the command that loads file. It just loads the file and basically insert all these variables that are in there. For now, there's just one for me, just API URL, and as you might have guessed, it is the URL that actually brings down the institutions, right? Results. So and this is the command that loads that file. And by default, it gets the local one, but there is an env variable set. It uses that. So if I actually set my env to production, let's say I set my env to production, right? So this is fish, but for bash you would probably be doing something like, let's say, environment equal to, let's say, production, and then you would be doing something like yarn dev. So this would give you production environment, and the production variables will be inserted in your code. And I'll show you how we can use environment variables in our code later. But for now, this is important to understand. Uh, with that out of the way, I also want to tell you a few other things. Like, so you see the build command, right? So I've kind of modified the build command. The reason I have modified the build command, I mean, it was just this one. It was just this one, right? This build, right? This was the one right there. Now, what I've added two things here. One thing, I've added something called clean. Clean is very simple. It just cleans my build folder, right? It's very simple to understand. Then of course, I've added the env part, right? So it looks like correct env. And there is one thing that I've added that's called next export. Now, the difference between next build and next export is critical to understand, right? So when I talk about Next.js, right? So Next.js, so by design, it does it do two things for you. You run your app in production, like when you deploy this, right? And when users can use it. So you run it in two ways. All right. So one of the ways you can use is you can return. There are actually many other modes as well, but the more primarily used one. So one is the SR mode, another is the SSG mode, right? I think there's another one, SR, right? So that's the one, uh, but that's just a mix of these two, right? So SSR is basically you might have it's called server side rendering, and the other is called server side generation. There are two modes that Next.js operates. So I briefly tell you what the difference between these two is. SSR is basically a mix of these two. So now SSR, what we do is okay. So before we go to that, I just need to do one small breather because I'm really losing my breath here. All right, we're back. Let me turn on my webcam. Let's see. All right, so let's get started. So I was basically telling you SSR and SSG, right? So these concepts I will not have time to explain in detail, right? Because there are other problems to solve, and it's like half is already there, right? So SSR is basically when there is a server that is rendering our component, React components, and give back HTML to the client, right? It's very simple to understand if you think this way, that it's very similar to how PHP works, and very similar to how we you have used Django. Okay, so all right. So you might have used Django or PHP. So that is what actually we mean by server side rendering. In this case, we're just rendering components, and there in PHP or we use Django, we are actually rendering our HTML templates. That's the difference. So that's what SSR is, right? And this is the mode that Next.js uses. And, you can use this in SSR. The idea behind SSR is basically like um, I mean, that's another great question why you would want to have SSR. The reason I'll tell you very briefly, people want to have SSR because two things. One, they want their users to see content on their screens sooner. If you use boilerplate from CRA, right? If you use CRA boilerplate, then the user actually have a bit of delay before they can see the content on your screen. That's because the JavaScript is responsible for actually mounting the HTML and rendering the HTML on the screen. When in case of server-side rendering, the HTML is already calculated on the server, sent to the client. So the client is able to HTML right away. So there's no delay. The reason is that uh, since the HTML is sent from the server, it is very SEO friendly. So the crawlers from Google or any search engine would pick up the HTML right away. Whereas if they don't have any HTML pick up, so then they will find anything, right? So sometimes they don't even wait for the JavaScript bundle to load and do not really capture metadata if the site has. So therefore, it's not very SEO friendly. So some people do SSR for these reasons. It's very performant. The other reason is that it is considerably good SEO, just like you would have on the website. Okay, this is SSR, right? So what is SSG then? Right? Well, SSG also similar to SR, where you would kind of serve an HTML to the client with a different, but there's a difference. The difference that the SSR, in SSR, the HTML is computed, it's generated on the fly. As soon as the request comes in, that's where the HTML is generated, it's sent back to the client. Now, for SSG, what happens is that that is done beforehand. Like that is done actually before the request comes in. That is done like during the time only. So we are actually making production bundle, as in you could remember we do that for Saray boilerplates, create React app boilerplates, right? And same way, the HTML is actually pre-generated. So we would have HTML files, and those HTML files can be then served to the client. And um, for this example, for this thing that we're doing, we're actually going to use SSG, and we're going to do this because the advantage of SSG over SR is huge. There is one big advantage that I really like is that SSG, when you actually when you're done creating the build, what it gives you is that it gives you very browser friendly assets. It just gives you very plain JavaScript, CSS, and HTML assets. The advantage of having these assets is that once you're serving them to the client, you don't really need a workhorse like Node.js, or you don't need something like Python on your server to serve. So you can serve them in a regular web server, right? and you can serve them very deeply. Or the fact that you can serve them, you can actually use CDN for serving these assets, which is kind of hard to do if you have a server side set up. So you can actually distribute these files because these will static files, they will not change, right? And they distribute them all across the globe, and the users that are, like, let's say a user requests your file and the server closes the user actually give the file. So they're able to basically reduce the latency between your files and your users. That is only kind of it kind of shines when you have these static assets. So this is what we mean by CDN. You might have heard CDN, very famous CDN called Cloudflare. There's another called JS Deliver. Of course, there's Cloud from AWS. So this is the advantage of having CS, like simple asset being generated from this. And this is the asset we are also going to generate. We are also going to deploy this assets to our digital droplet. ISR is a mix of two. So SSG is be expensive to complete, take some time. Therefore, some people actually for ISR wherein request comes in and it is then first request is served by SSG, then it is actually saved and the corresponding requests are served using SSG pattern. That's what ISR means. Moving forward, so we don't really want to do too much time because we have a lot to do. So we have our ENV setup, we have our pages, we have rally. Now let's see if there's anything else that we missed while update. So I do want to delete certain things. I do want to delete, like, this is my index.html, right? Let me just copy paste the one I have here that I've made. Let me copy paste it here, and this is we're not using CSS modules. We're not using CSS file, so this is not be there. We are using media, and that uses a mode, so we're not using CSS files. All right. So let's actually do one now. I'd make this one point just for example, and we will this component just so that we have our first structure in place. So basically, okay, we need to create a source folder. Okay, so we need to create a source folder, right? So do that, we would make the source folder, and we can move the components in our folder. So the directory structure. So really sorry to be like kind of unprepared for this. I really want to have some really good diagrams to show, like, but it's really hard to once you have to do so much, right? Because it's really hard to actually do something like this. It requires some commitment, so it's kind of hard. But moving forward, I will try to make that a point. So for now, the folder structure that I like to follow is that I do want my source folder, and my source folder really has some subfolders. There would be a common components for that will be used to the pages. Most of the time when I'm like working Next.js apps, I actually make a point to I actually make a point to have these files, the one in page, be very lightweight. So they'll be just like one, they will just have one component per file, like just one component I can export it outside. And because I won't really want my code in the source folder, I don't really want to rely on the pages for too. So most of my time in my Next.js app, it only like one component being exported from all these. But that's right. So this is done, and we have our head component. Head component, I just added a tag here, and that's what it does. Just wanted to show you how we can have components here, and this should be good to go, I think, unless we something, but the important. I don't think we did. Uh, or git ignore is fine, right? I guess it's fine, and then yes and RC is fine. All right, I think it looks good. What we can do is we can actually just start the dev server again, right, and see this now. And let's see, a few more seconds. Okay, awesome. So we do have the markup here. So, but mind you that the results are hard coded, right? And of course, nothing happens when I type. This is just an empty input. It doesn't really do anything. So that we will build around the functionality. Okay. And this is what component looks like. So let's get our hands dirty and let's code some logic, right? Right. So let's do it. Okay. What do we want to have? The first thing that we want to have is that we want to make the API call and to fetch data. But yeah, I guess you want to do that, right? Let's do it. Did I tell you the fun part about this API, right? That we are actually making? Excuse me. All right. The fun part about the API that we are using. So I just showed you. I just showed you API, right? This API. So it's actually deployed. It's a deployed on free Heroku Dino. So this is the API. This is the API. If you go to the browser and we'll supply a query param and we'll have the result. So it's actually very simple. Interesting, I'll give some insider news. So this API, I actually wrote this API as well. So this is something I didn't really using. I actually created this of my own, and it's a very interesting use case because this algorithm actually made this algorithm myself, and there is an open source repository for this. So if you go to my GitHub hack, and there's a repository called institutions API. This is actually where the source code for this API is written. I basically have a huge blob of JSON where I have all the universities, right? And this doesn't have any searching built in. So I actually made sure to actually have the searching built in. There's some algorithm that run in the background. So bits are on the repository if you want to know. So there's a data structure called try reduce, and there is more information in the repository. And I wrote this in like Go. This is, it makes this really fast. The search looks really fast, and this is a really portable app. And you can deploy it to Heroku. You can even own this and deploy it to Heroku. You can actually use this API. This is actually an interesting thing about this API. Like we actually want to have this API. I actually made this API for one of the products in one of my startups, and then we wanted to have this Java. So I actually got in Kotlin. Then just to see how it would come to Go, I actually read it in Go at open source. So this is that's in Go, and I also made one in Python, but not really satisfied by its performance. But Go one was ready. So was the Java. But Go was slightly faster. So this is the repo. If you want to take a look at that, and in that, let's get back to what we were doing. Okay, so okay, so I see that we still have a TypeScript error. We could probably go away because TypeScript has only picked this file up, pasted this here, and okay. So let's code this. Okay. So like I promised, right? So to query our APIs, we would actually need we will use a service called not a service but library called React Query. Okay, before we even go React Query, let's do one thing that I really want to do. Let's actually just make this. Let's actually just code this API call, right? Let's actually get it. Let's write the code. So what I do is write an API folder. In this API folder, I just write a file called fetch institution. Actually, it's really hard, so do ignore the typos. It is pretty thing here, using code. Okay, so we just want to make a function, right? Let's just fetch institutions. Okay, and function, as you might have guessed, takes a search term, right? Right up till now, this is a very simple session, right? There's nothing too fancy. You might have 100 times, I know, but let's say we get to, right? I promise that this is going to be interesting. So search term is right. So the other that I want to pass. Okay, so I want to one more thing here. I don't want to I don't want to look up for just one word or two words. I want to really look up for three or more words. So I want to do that. I don't want to search for just one letter or two letters. I want to at least have three letters searching. So what I'll do is I'll actually introduce this as an argument though. I don't want to put this in. I want to make this flexible, right? So I'll name this variable. I'm ready of think too much. I'll name my variables. So it's minimum length of search term or minimum length to search. I guess it's fine, right? Right. This will be a number, right? And there's another parameter that I'll actually pass in that people might not have realized. So this API, right? Okay, this is not the API. Sorry, this is the API. So I was actually trying this on Vercel, but anyway. So there it actually takes another parameter called count, I think, right? And if I give count, it actually increases the number of results. I think, yeah. So it does increase it, right? So it's 100, and I go down to let's say, sorry, if I go to 2, so it only turns the top. Great. So I want to pass this in. So max results. So max items, items, right? So this will also be a number. I want to keep this configured in the UI. So from the UI, if the user wants to change, they can even change it. Right now, we're not gonna do that function. We're not gonna add that functionality. It's just there for Let's quickly press our manager and do this in like a couple of seconds. He'll be happy, right? So okay. So this is how the API would look like. Actually, if I think about it, I don't really like this too much because I don't really want to have. I don't want to have 3 arguments. It's hard to read each argument means. What I'll actually do, I'll actually create a type for this. Uh, so I'll just create a type for this, which will have these things, and will make it a bit more readable when we call it, right? And there's so okay, this needs to be capital, right? And type. Okay, so this is a TypeScript error. It will now go away as soon as I write default. Okay, and this is the argument. And what we're gonna do is actually gonna I'm actually gonna strictly type this. So this is the items. So I'm just passing it as an object and passing it 3 arguments because it makes it a bit more readable. The 3 arguments. Okay, so what do we need to do? Okay, so we need to do. We're not gonna use any fancy fetching library. We'll just use a plain browser fetch. We're not gonna use anything fancy. Now something interesting is coming up. So now, do you remember where API inputs were, right? In the environment file. So this is what we're gonna use. We don't want to hard code this, like I said, because we want to change per NV. We want to do this, and that's how you would access it, just like you would access it in Node.js. And this is the endpoint, and this is the endpoint. Before I call this endpoint, I want to make some search. These are all basically all parameters, right? So I want to make these are search parameters. Okay, so okay, the name, that is the search term. The other is like you saw, and that is items. Max length. What I'll do is, so I'll actually read. So I didn't annotate the return type, right? Which is a bad thing. I should have done that. Let me annotate the return type. So by default, it will return a promise, and as you might have guessed, it returns a array, right? Very simple. And if my minimum length search, my search term dot length is less than minimum length search, then I'll just return the empty. I will not query the AI. I will not give the burden to the API. I'll just return this. I do have to return a promise, but I will do not using async await here because that's just an overall for what we're going to do. So this is the search params, and don't worry about that. Right? It just needs it and string. That's all. Okay. So these are my search params, and let me add my params. Okay, nothing fancy. Just start by using the CNV. Then of course do this. You want to convert to origin before we send back, and I'm going to do okay. So response dot sim. There. I'm going to return this, right? And okay. So okay, something happened probably. This return should have been pink, right? Okay. Okay, now it's pink. All right. Okay, good. Right. So this is basically what API looks like. Nothing fancy, just a function that returns those values. Let's see how we get it. Now in React, like if you oh my god, it's already 11 o'clock. Okay, so basically let me. So do you guys want me to continue beyond 11 o'clock? So, maybe 30 minutes or more if you're enjoying it. If not, we can do it on the next session. Although I had no idea this was too long. What do you guys think? Tell me in the chat if any there. Because I do want to explain a few concepts before we wrap up the first one at least, right? I do want to get some headway. Okay. Okay. All right. A few more minutes, I promise, right? Okay. Ideally, what would do is, right? I mean, if we were coming from a React ecosystem, would you use effects, right? I'm going to use hooks, right? Not talk about class-based components. I mean, obviously, right? Nobody use them anymore. So ideally, would want to do something like, I mean, this is just a rough thing. Maybe you could do this as even pseudocode. So this is what we're going to do. Fetch, fetch institutions. Then probably do a response, and then set some state, right? Then what we're going to do, right? And have the search term here and do all those things. So you might have guessed. So this is kind of what we do, but we're not going to do that here. So we are actually going to use another package called React Query to manage our data fetching and to manage how the data flows from that application. And I'll tell you why we need this, why we need a national library. While from looks up, we don't need it, right? But I'll tell you why we need it. But before we do, actually just put this in, and I'll tell you why. But okay, let's forget about it. Let me tell you why I need this. So this is just this would actually serve for institutions, and it would work the way you could have imagined that this could work. But this is fine. I could have introduced some checks here and there, use some memorization, things like that, and maybe some, I don't know. We could have a few tricks here, but why I want to use React Query, there are reasons. One of the reasons that uh, I actually mentioned it, but it actually comes ready-made. It is caching and or you could say memorization. What I meant this is, I don't want to, I go here, right? Let me tell you what I mean to. So if I go here, right, and let's say if I search for Kashmir, so as you see, I Kashmir, right? If I go back and if I enter Kashmir again, I don't want to query the API again. Because I have Kashmir's data now. I do not want to query it again. I want to patch the previous result and on that back to the user. So that makes no sense to just bump the API for no reason. So let's go back. Go to Kashmir, right? So I can see there is just one API call that was made. So with the and there was no the I. If I go delete this, I will also not be there. We already made this, and this is why I want to use React. I want to actually have this logic in wherein we would actually carry responses based on the parameters. So we're not gonna query API ever again. The other reason why we want React query is that it actually bakes very well into the React ecosystem. So as such, it is not just enough to use effects. There are also things you have to basically you have to clean up, and you have to manage state. You have to make sure that you don't unnecessarily renders. There are lots of other that you have to take care of. So React query is the React friendly. It actually helps you manage your life cycle of component, and it's very predictable, right? It's very predictable, and the rendering in the code is very predictable, and it gives you a very friendly wrapper that you can use, and it also gives some, you can say that it will reduce my basically the length of my code, right? And very easy to use it. So and there's also some other reasons why we want to use queries. It has other really great features, but for this application, why I was interested in React queries, that I don't want to query my results again, and it just gives me a lot more control, and it gives me some ready-made goodies like errors or loading state, which I might have to I might have to make them from scratch. So let's actually add React query, right? Let's add this bad boy in. Uh, okay, React query. Uh, okay, so it should come any moment, and here it is. So there's one thing that I strictly follow, and I just like religiously, is that I remove the caps details from my package. I do not want the variable version names ever in my repository, because nobody actually respects this, and there are making changes all over the place. So if I have this, right, I could possibly be downloading this or this without knowing if I did that, right? If I remove my node module, my log file. So ideally, I want to log this because nobody really in the ecosystem risks this, and there are big changes all over the place. I make sure to lock dependencies every time, and I never use variable names. And this is how basically I'm able to keep a base stable for many years. This is personal experience that I have, right? So this is React, and to use React query, this is some basic library that we have to use. First, we have to create a client. Okay, this is an API folder that I want to delete. Um, So we will create a React client here, a React client first. Then we just so first up we just create a client. We will do that. To do that, just create a query client, and this will be okay. Uh, Query client. Yeah, that's one. Okay, so it takes some options. One of the options that I really like is stale. Oh, there is some option, right? I think there is option. Recache. Uh, there there is some there is some configuration. Probably we have to do config or something, but okay. There is actually some config. Not for I'm not remembering what that is. It allows us to actually cache the results for indefinite period of time. I actually want to show you this. There's a configuration here. Let me just cheat a bit more and show you what it is. there there it is. So okay. So this is basically what it looks like, right? I'll just export the default. Sure. No, I always miss the export. Okay, client, right? Uh, okay, so this is what the config looks like. So what it actually means is that it has a tail time. So this is what I really like. So you can have this, you can actually have it as a number. You can have it like say 5,000, 5 seconds. That means that every query, every AI call uh, will only be cached 5 seconds. So after 5 seconds, it will refresh the data that API calls are being made. So this is by stale time. But right now, I know that the data store will never change. So I'll just use infinity. This will query for the lifetime of application when it's in the browser. Okay. So there is some boilerplate that I'll need to write. So there's an app component that Next.js gives. So this is like a wrapper for all the pages. This is I just need to have a provider for React query. This is also important. Right? This is market provider, and I just need to wrap it. This is boilerplate like you would have your Redux boilerplate, Redux provider. Similar, this is um, a boilerplate for this, right? So we have this query client. We need to import it and use it, and this is all we need to use. And this is all we need to use, and this is all right. Oh, okay, we made a mess of it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna use okay, data options. We're gonna use data is link. I think that's what it is. And then there's is there or something. I don't remember what it is, but it is use query. Yeah, this is one. Okay, use query. So this is the hook that allows to use React query in my components. The way to use this, it takes basically it takes a key. So there are two keys. So it actually takes an array of dependencies. One will be the name. I'll explain to you what this is. If you ever use effect, so you would know what dependencies are. Fetch institutions would be the name, would be the key, right? And the key is search term. I'll tell you what these mean. Then there's another an argument that is basically just to fetch meta. How meta will be fetched? React query, mind you, is not an API. It's not technically an API client. It doesn't fetch the data for you. What it does is it actually helps to build a system around your data flow. So you can use whatever library you want. You can use Agos, you can use Fetch, you can use AS Source. There can be any others, right? So it is not basically an API. It helps you to just manage your application state in a better way if you're using API. And this is this even has an available state, so you can actually replace Redux in the use cases by using this. Okay, so basically we would have now our API call fetch institutions and search term. By default, we actually want to have minimum of 3 and maximum of 10 items. So this is what we're going to return like this, and we'll just return it. We don't need to write the return statement. We can just do this, right? And okay, okay, there's some issue there, right? Okay, this is basically okay. So okay, this is not the arguments that we defined. We find an object. Remember, so search term would there, and this is when I meant when I said that this was going to be a lot more readable. Now max items. Now you know what I mean. I meant by that. Then there is a thing called max items. Then there's another one. What's the other one? Okay, minimum length to search would be. So this is fine, right? Self-explanatory, and this is good. So it's good to go. Okay, so now let's explain to you what these two things mean. So these two things actually serve two purposes. One, they help in caching. The other, they help in that query to re-query the API if one of the argument changes. So one of the argument is static, fetch institutions. This is more like a name. It actually tells you React query that what the endpoint is called. So if it's called institutions. So some other endpoint we could have like let's say fetch institutions to or fetch users or something, right? So we don't want to query. We don't want to dash the results from institutions in that the search term is true. Let's say we're searching users and that also has search term. So if the search term is you don't want React to think that they're the same. So that's why we have him, right? And let's go back to my studio. Okay, so what's the advantage of this? To be honest, okay, so this is actually a good question. Like, what are the advantages of query over SWR, right? So there's another sister library that is actually by the same folks who build Next.js that use SWR. So there's actually another great library you can use, very similar to what React query does. And to be honest, the advantages of use SWR are like I don't really think that this is a better alternative. I think that it is an alternative that actually helps you to cater a little more use cases. SWR is a little smaller library. It has a few small goodies in the bag, whereas React query has a lot more goodies in the bag. But for the application that we're doing, caching and doing like basic things, SWR would all work pretty right. And this is also very think of it as an alternative in most scenarios, and you can use both. And it's very Next.js friendly. And I mean, I really see a huge advantage of query apart from having a few goodies. Like if you go to the docs, there are things like parallel queries, and there are things like you can actually, if you ever use Redux Saga, so if you know that if you actually initiate the same API request 3 times, so it would kind of discard the previous two and would help you to get the list only. So there are some features that are very accustomed to React Query that you probably don't have in UseWR. So some very good things. Then you can actually go to docs and see what it has. It has a first support for GraphQL. I'm not really sure if SW has that, but uh, in reality. All right. So this is what we're going to do. So fetch entity just to denote the function. This is the search term. So whenever the search term changes, I talk this. This is a dependency like. So it's a dependency like use effect. So whenever this one of changes, this actually recomputes my data. It actually does this call and it gets the data. Now these are really important. So like I said, I don't need to maintain 3 separate states for loading in data. It gives that to me right away. And this is actually how that's actually managed. The promise, if it's rejected, then this would be and loading, what loading and data is data. Okay, nice. All right, so let's see this in action, right? Let's see this in action. Okay, so this is my object. What I'll do. So I'll have to do a couple of things. So if data is there and data dot actually no, I just want to do a map, right? Actually, I don't want to call data. I actually don't want to call it data. It's just too generic. I just want to do options, right? That's better. So all is there, right? And is loading. I don't want to call it is loading. I want to call it as our options loading. So it's just much more explicit what it is. Error is fine. Then we have options, right? Then we just have an option, right? Okay. This is an option. Very similar. Very simple. Nothing too fancy. We want something here. We do want a margin top out, margin of sorts. Actually, not top, right? We want it to be bottom. Okay. So I just want to write some component. I just want to write a fragment because there are 2 components here. I just want to write a fragment, and then of course I want to have a key, and the key would be in my case would be the on itself, right? The text to highlight would be the option, and search term is the search term. Yeah, perfect. This is absolutely perfect. And let's see this in action. Well, I have to, but it's complete yet. But let's no, not the one, right? This is the one. Okay, it's actually working because turn it off. So let's start. It's really getting late, right? So I'm trying to move as fast as I can because I have a lot more concepts to be covered. Okay. All right. So let's type it out. And there you go. And there we have it. As simple as it's just so. Okay. So this is good, right? So this actually gets it done. But actually, no. This is how only half done. So you might think this is all, but actually, this is not all. We still have to refine it, and I'll tell you why I need to refine it. So basically, we're doing a few things that we should be doing. So we're not handling any loading. We're not showing any loading to the user. Like user doesn't know that stuff is happening. We're not having any errors, right? And that's just basics. There's another very great issue that doing that we should really do is that once we are changing this input, we do want some sense of delay when we actually make the API call. So we don't bombard our hero instance by the API call. So the user once they type Kashmir, so they typed like how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So that means 7 API calls. We don't want to make 7 API calls. We just want to make 1 API call when the user actually stops typing. So this will be the chain like A S H M I. And we don't want to make the API call on R when it stops. That's not to make the API call. This is how we're gonna actually query the API, right? Okay. So let's do that. And to do it, there is actually a technical term for this called debounce. So debounce is basically what I just explained. So it actually throws every value that comes before, and it only gives you the value that is attained after a certain delay. This is a perfect use for debounce. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to call use debounce. This one, right? And as always, we're going to lock its dependencies. Otherwise, someday it's going to blow up in our face, right? So we're going to lock it. We'll go back to the index and let's use it. The way to use it actually we will be using something called debounce term, and we'll be using use debounce if we have it here. I'm sure why we are not getting that. But let's see. Let's just import it directly. Okay, use the mouse. Not getting indexes here, but it's fine. Okay. So use the mouse, and by default it takes the search term that is continuously being changed, and it also needs a delay. So we'll have a delay of 300 milliseconds. So this is the delay that we'll have. After 300 milliseconds, the user need to stop for 300 milliseconds, and then we'll use it. So basically, this is what we're going to use for our search. So we will not use that one. We will use this one. And this is now the API call will happen. So I'll actually show you this. So let's just show you this. Maybe we can actually visualize here. Let's actually the network tab. You can see. Okay, the devs are down, right? Okay, so let's go. Okay. So in the meanwhile, okay. Okay. Any more questions in the mail? Are you guys actually loving this? Are you guys enjoying this, or are you just find too boring or too like conventional, or like I don't know, something that you do each day? So just let me know, right? Okay. So let's see the network tab, right? Okay. Let's see. Okay. Look. Oh wow, we just had 5 API calls. Well, that's just it. Rules, right? We're not gonna do that. So let's just quickly do what we were doing. So debounce search term, right? Debounce it, and this is the dependency now, and there we're gonna see some magic. Let's see. So with Kashmir, and there's just one API call. Now, unless I don't stop, it does call the API. Look, it doesn't call it. It does not call it unless I stop, and that's what we would want. That's yeah. So, right. So this is we want. So this is the first problem. Now we've solved. Now loading, right? Let's see if we can do some loading. So I had a circular progress bar that I actually added in Markup itself, and by default would only appear when the action would be loaded. So let's have it here. And there was more here. I want the results to fade in. That's just an effect that I had. To do that, probably I would want my options to be. Like, I don't remember what it was. But let's just see the progress bar at least. Ah, nice. Nice. That's nice. And as you see, the API calls are not getting repeated for the parameters. They're not getting repeated, right? They're not getting repeated because we've cached it and we're also debounced it. It's perfect. Okay, so this is the progress bar. Now this is the options. We would want to have some form of like follow QI for no results. I think for that, what we would do is okay. What we would do is we would do options. Just this is getting a bit messy there. Let's just actually just create a function render items. So make this a bit more real, right? Okay, so let me just go back my screen. Yeah, thanks. So how many people are actually watching the game? I don't think that too many, right? If you just raise your hands, right? I mean, I would raise my hand. I would raise my hand, and let's see what else. So render items is like it's just a function that returns the item, right? So this I'll just like what I'm doing here. I'll just okay. So if I have options, if I don't have like okay, I like to basically take care of the exceptions first. That's something that I do. And if there are no options, and hmm, hmm, if and if there are options or the options don't have any items, so we want to return something which is kind of meaningful to user. Let's say like no result found, right? And other occasion we just want to map it, right? Just want to map it. It's fine, right? Yeah, good. Nice. Yeah, no idea why would that. I mean, okay. So okay, this is good. Right. So no loader here because we already kept it. If you really, there will be a loader. Just like that. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So now since we have built it in such a way that we are providing arguments, so if a manager comes to us and says that, hey, I want to give the functionality user to have a drop down here and choose how many terms that they want to see here. So we can easily do that, right? We have the parameter here. So nothing to worry. All covered. Apart from that, we have mapping also that's configurable. And we do want one thing. There's actually more thing that we want to take care of. We don't really want to do that, but we do to take care of that. And there's something called, I mean, we don't want to search on, like, we want to trim, right? Trim, we want to trim this. We don't want to search for spaces. I mean, that's just, why would we do that? But we want to do in such a way that we can see it on the UI as well. So what we'll do is, we can either do this, we can even trim it before we send to the API, but we are actually using this somewhere down in the in our code base as well. We actually, it's good to use this one, not search term. So let's actually make sure not using search term in here. Oh, we are actually. So let's just debounce. This is the, because this is the actual, right? This is the actual thing the API uses. So let's better for you to see that only, right? Okay. So you want to trim it. So I just want to give one example of trim. Ideally, we would want to do this only, but if you want to do some processing, usually what we do is use memo, right? Just we use another hook called use memo, and we can actually trim it there only. So we can trim here, then we can give, then it will only be trimmed with changes and things like that. But I mean, that's just info. We're not going to do it. It's a full problem. We just trim it right here, and the problem will be solved. So it will not give me results. But let's see. Okay, so it doesn't give me results. Fine. All right. So we have, okay. Now there's another thing, right? We do want to take care of this. There's one more thing that I really like about use query. That is one important thing that I forgot to do. You know what? That if, like, let's say the API call fails, right? Let's say there's an error. So API call just fails. So let's just wait. Let's just fail it. Just throw an error. What we can do is we can just run a promise reject. We'll just return an error very quickly, right? And just return some very. So what React query does is, um, so let's see. Okay, so there are, so you can see the API call has obviously failed. Obviously, we have returned, like, we have thrown an error. But what happens? It's still trying to do it. It's still trying to do it. It's still trying to do it. Why? Because the thing that I like of React query is that it actually retries your. You actually see it. If I go here and let's called bad habit of console logging, right? So everyone has it. Okay, look now. Look. So called. So 3 times actually called. And the fourth time, it's actually called the fourth time. And even the fifth probably. And it's failed. Now it throws an error. So it does it actually retry you also. So let's say the user is having some interaction and he's not getting the data properly. So then it retries all. And this is actually configurable. You can actually configure it on the client level. If you go here, and then there is a retry like this. By default, let's choose 3 for now. And let's see. This should work, I think. So I really like how many. So this is how why React query really shine, right? So this is now you're seeing the benefit of this having it over something like Axios or something. We can use Axios, right? Okay, so it actually called it 4 times. Okay, it has actually called it times. So to retry this 3 means, okay. So what it actually means that it called it the first time, then it retried 3 times or not. Not really sure. So it did 5 times, but not sure this is not working. I did should have, right? And there's also retried. Uh, okay. So there's also a retry delay that you need to space out this. Let's not figure it, but it's there, right? It will work. So this is a good thing about React query. And okay, this is good. Now we would take care of this error somehow. Not sure where I can do that. Not really. There is a fade in here. I think this was for this was for options. If I have or not, I don't really remember what this was. Probably for debound. Probably for this. I'm not sure. Maybe it was this. Let's see. Ready? Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Now you can see that the requests are. Okay, I forgot to remove this. Sorry. Forgot to remove this. Okay, what time it is? Okay, 11:50. We're gonna take it for 50 more minutes, and then we're gonna call it a day. I still want to be satisfied with what we've covered. But I think it's a fair thing to do. With like, because you guys would be tired. It's just not fair. Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. So this is good, right? Okay. So for this error, let's actually just add this somewhere. Let's add it here. Okay. Does it really give us the error also? The error? It does. Nice. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll create another field for this. By default will appear always and then it will be we're going to boolean error. So if error is there, it's going to show it. We're just going to do error. So this is what we're going to do. And okay. So this is basically, it's not allowing because it doesn't know the type. So by default it's string or something. So we just got to string or something. Okay, so it should be error.message if I'm wrong, but let's just try with this. Okay, so it will tell me that is unknown. It will not say, it will not be happy. But let's try. Is error actually there? We should have used the boolean stuff doing this. That's better. Now let's throw the error again and see this in action. Okay, oh, we cannot do that because it can be undef also. So we'll just do this, but this is also not going to work probably. Okay. There, that should do it. Okay, wow. Okay, style of undefined. This is pretty interesting. Not sure what happened. It's just pretty weird. I think we just give it some. It didn't expect the string children. It probably didn't expect. Let's just give it a fragment. That should be it. Yep. Okay. Hello. There's no error. It's trying. It's trying. It's trying. Now let's see. Let's see. And oh wow, something bad. Okay, we should have given it a span. We should have just given it a span, and we could have just done this, or we could have given it a box. We could have given it a box with a color of. Okay. 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 Null found. It's searching. It's still searching, but it's gonna fail right there. Perfect. This is perfect. This is absolutely what I wanted. Now this is a problem, but what I'll do is I'll do this. So, but then this is gonna work probably. Yeah, I don't want TypeScript to be not happy. So I don't want to be not happy. But anyway, there is one more issue that you might have guessed is that basically we're not giving the correct information. So once the API is happening, we're still showing that no results found. So we can remove it if you query on the log state. But I don't want to solve so many problems. We have solved enough problems to make this sound good, and this is also gonna solve the problem. And this is all. So I don't want to focus more on this is all. Be honest. I don't really want to focus more on this. I do want to fix this. And how can I fix it? Okay, let me do this. Let me do something bad. String. Okay, let me not do anything. String. This is such a man. Such a trouble to be honest. Okay, let's just test it once. I have to test it once. Okay. All right. Okay, so we have minutes, and then I promise you that we're gonna something awesome in 10 minutes. Okay, but okay, yeah, it's not gonna work with the error. We have to do this. It won't work without the toast. But let's just leave it at okay. Now we're gonna do something very interesting. Now this is app, right? So we have built up. This is our app, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna test it. We're gonna write test cases. So this is done, right? This is good. We're good. We're gonna run the integration test that we are going to test this app and see if it's working properly or not. So to do this, we're gonna use a tool called Cypress. This one. We can live the red underline. Okay, not sure what it means, mate. Not sure what do you mean by that, but we'll get to it. So basically, we're gonna use this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna install Cypress really quickly as a dev dependency. We're gonna use Cypress to test. So Cypress, it actually what it does is it actually runs a headless browser for us, and we can give it instructions. Hey, click on this and type this and expect this. Right? It's that kind of testing. So we're integrating. It's integration thing. This is not unit testing wherein we use something called enzyme or testing library or jest. That is something on a component level where we do it via code. This is something we have to do in an actual browser, and this is where it's so interesting because we would actually be setting up a browser and telling it. Since we added Cypress, so let's just add it. And now, since that's been added, to do this, we need some configuration that we need to have. I've already added the configuration in the other repository that I have. I'm just going to cheat again, save time. So it needs a JSON file and it needs a folder of tests. So I'll just copy these two things, the Cypress file and the test folder. This test folder has instructions for tests and also the Cypress JSON file. This will just basically tell some things like, which resolution the browser is to use, right? And timeouts and, just some configuration where it lives. So if I go to my test folder, this is just boilerplate Cypress. Okay, I will have a repository for this, so you can check the code like individually if you want to. For plugins, it doesn't have any. I think it has any plugins apart from the environment. Yeah, this is good. Indentation is fine. Then okay, this is command doesn't have any command, nothing here. And TS-con we want to have overrides a bit because we some like do some changes to script once a test. Okay, so this is our suite. Now this is a file that I want to show you. This is test file. This is the instance file. This is what actually tells the browser what to do. So this is where it's interesting, right? So this is the script that runs, and let's just run it once and I'll tell you what it looks like. But let me here. I need to change certain things here. The start command. We need to add test commands here. We don't have a yarn test, right? So we need to add a yarn test. We don't have it at the moment. So let's add it. I actually made sure to add it. So we need to use these two commands only. So I'll explain what these commands are doing. Let me add a few dependencies before we get there. Okay. Then we'll sort this out. Okay. So actually have another dependency called start run test. I need this dependency. I'll tell you why I need it. So basically how run test is. So this is our test command, right? This is the entry point test. So if we're going to call this command start server and test, so like you've guessed, what it does is it actually runs my dev server on 3000. Right? It actually checks whether it's up on 1000, and when it is, it runs the CY command. That's what opens Cypress. And this is how it works. Look. So if I do yarn test, let's see what will happen. So if it will actually power my dev server. So this will be my 3000. And now this actually is happening, still waiting for it. And it actually happened. Now it's going to open Cypress. Look. Now there you see Cypress. It just came up. So this will now have my test. Okay, so there's also a dependency called .env we haven't added. Let's add it. It's probably one of the Cypress configuration files. So we want to make this as a dev dependency, not want to pollute the production dependencies, right? And these are just different files and mostly CN files here. Sorry, shouldn't have opened that. Okay, this is good. We'll do our test again. Okay, it's 11:25. We don't want to take this anymore, I guess, but let's see. TS underlines are acceptable for legend. Yeah, I'll fix that. I mean, I really want to waste time on. It's a trivial issue, right? I wanted to focus on big things, and we can take that up. So I don't really think there's nothing legendary about what we're doing here. Just a very simple, basic setup we're doing. And okay, so this is my Cypress suite. Now, so this is the headless browser. It actually visits a page, and after that, it has what does this? It will okay, it is looking for an ID of name. So maybe I missed a step wherein I had to give ID to the input. I actually gave it outline basic. I need to give it as name, and this is what I need to. So it's looking for the ID name, right? Now it's doing it. It's doing it. The API call is gonna happen probably. Okay, let's wait for the API call. Oh, I'm still in an error, am I? Yeah. There. Okay, that's sad. Let's run it and check. Okay. Oh, great. Okay, so it has actually returned some data. Now I want to see an interesting thing here. Basically, as you can see on the browser, let's expand this a bit if I can. In the browser, you only see these two results, but I actually typed me, right? So it should have given me the custom results. And if I comment out this line in the test, it will actually give the actual result. This one. Well, actually just this one. I should remove this portion. That's all. Let's see. Now it will do the actual API call. Now you see, now you have actual data. So there's something interesting going on here. So during testing, right, we don't really want to query the API again and again and again and again. Because remember, we're not testing API. The API, we can expect it works perfectly. We have to test the app. To test the app, we can actually get some leverage. So we can actually intercept the API call and we can set the API call should not happen and we just return some hard-coded results. There are two advantages. One of the advantages is that you don't really need to create the API again and again. Remember, the API also has limits. So in testing, this can happen really. You don't want to break those limits. The other thing is that it makes the test go faster because you don't have to wait API calls. The third, like actually the more important thing is that it makes the test predictable. If you hard code the results, you know exactly what to test for. So if hard code, I know the two items, I can actually check. So actually, this is the line that gets the input. It focuses the and types the search. Afterwards, waits for the API call, which is actually just a, and then it actually checks that I have two allies. I have two list items. This is I know this because I have an array of two, right? I would know that otherwise. If I just left it to mercy of the API. Then I can actually check if the ally if it has my result or not. So I'm gonna iterate over the ally, and I'm gonna check whether it has text or not. And yes, and if I just start and I know for a fact that it has exact result and the tests are actually passing. So this is my test case. And this is just enough. This is just get tested. And this is enough to test my application and to say that there could be some other tests you can do. Like for example, progress bar, is that thing, right? Or maybe error is that thing. But those are just not those are something what you call non-happy paths. We're not gonna test non-happy paths. The reason is that this just blows out of proportion. We don't want to actually write all that we can. We want to show concept. It's more about the concept rather than actually doing it, right? So I just want to show you what's possible. So I'm just scratching the surface here. All right. So so this is basically my suite, and this is perfectly what I want. And actually run it in the command line. Is I just have to change to open to run, and then in this it will just run. It will not run a header, so I cannot see it. And there's one really good thing about Cypress we like. For Cypress, we actually in one of our startups, we actually the process where we actually saved a screenshot of our test in Cypress. And then those are used as an acceptance area or PR or Mars or in like whenever we are merging code or something, right? So we save those screenshots and the reviewer could actually look at those screenshots and see if it's good or not. And this is actually run on the command line. By default, it's Electron. You can actually make it to use Go or you can use Firefox. There is, I think, there is support for WebKit. There is experimental support for WebKit. I'm not sure that is landed and stable yet. Or it's still a proposal which is still going on. For Safari, you will be running into trouble. So that where things like Selenium or browser test, Lambda test would shine. But Cypress is something that's really good anyway. But it just has one issue that it's not really ready for Safari. You can change it to Chrome, Firefox. So it is okay. By under the hood, it's uses Electron. So Electron, if you know, it's a headless browser, Chrome-based browser, headless. It uses Chromium, I think, under the right. This is where in like the Electron is also so Electron is that browser, right? You heard about Electron, right? Where we make hybrid desktop apps. So it's something. It's also less browser and not headless browser. It's to build apps on free desktop. So it is the same. You can use Chrome or Firefox. Okay, so this is very similar to Selenium does. There's also a service for this called LambdaTest. There's actually a third service which you can use called LambdaTest. It can give you the same for a price, and it has a lot of browsers and you can test it. And there are so many things you can do with this. Just you can actually use a tool called Percy also, right? Uh, so this is actually a great tool that I was actually planning to use sometime later, but didn't get a chance to. So basically, if you have your DIN ready, if you have your mock ready, you can actually have a screenshot of your application using your test cases. Then you can use Percy to compare those screenshots so they match or not. So if they don't match, the test case we failed. So that is how you do visual testing. So let's say your CSS breaks your design, so that you'll know from the command line itself, and your server will tell you it's open. Okay, so this is good, right? So this is good. Let me just close all the tabs. Don't want any tabs. And this finishes our test. Next up, our deployment to Ubuntu, and we will um, automate the deployment. But I think we have kind of hit the upper bound for our time. I don't want to go any longer. And yes, I do want to fix this. And the way I can fix it is that uh, the way I can fix it is that I'll just typecast it. I'll just typecast it. Let's see if this works. Okay, it's still actually just loading. It's trying to. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. Right? It's gone. It's gone. It's just a hack. But yeah, it's to do for now. Okay, so this is good. What I'll do is I'll just commit all this. It's actually a lot, right? We should do a lot. Let me just commit this. Right, functionality. And tests. Okay, so I'm going to commit this and I'm going to push it. Yeah, I'm going to publish it. Yeah, here. Oh, okay, this is a bit okay. We have a bit of an issue here. We need to actually link it to a repository that we haven't. Let me do that, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, and there you go. And there it is. Nice. Everything is baked in, and I do like my all my tools to live in the same repository. Like I'm not installing Cypress as a global dependency because I can run it locally, and it just improves developer experience in general. And this is what I have to do. And the next 10 that's going to be done at the same time, 10 up, right? We're going to take this application. I'm going to deploy it on a Ubuntu server on Lotion. And we do it via a script that we will run. So we will not manually go using tools like FileZilla, like things like that are GUI based. We'll basically write a script for that will allow us to actually automate when we use it in GitHub Actions, right? That we will take up tomorrow, and today is just a hard stop. And I hope that you guys have had fun, and I also had fun doing this, and I hope we could do this sometime later. And if anyone wants to add anything, feel free to add it in the chat, or if anyone wants to add or ask something, this would be a good thing. Otherwise, this will be it for today. All right, so I'll wait for a few more seconds, and if I don't get anything in the chat, I'll just probably log out right away. Okay, so that said, I think let's wrap it for today, and this will be the end. And hope to catch you tomorrow, and we will finish off what we left off with. And hope to catch you later. Bye, and good night.